This true story was told to me by my best friend 10 years ago while we were having tea at a roadside stall in Bhubaneswar, India. According to my friend, the incident happened to one of his distant cousins, whose father was a civil servant posted in the town of Nanded, Maharashtra. The cousin's parents were murdered in a macabre manner, yet the case remains unsolved to this day. The year was 1986. In the sleepy town of Nanded in western India, an incident occurred that shook the entire community. It was September, and a 3-year-old boy was sleeping with his mother in their bedroom. His father slept in another room where he also worked. Around 2:30 a.m., the toddler suddenly woke up to a strange sound. As the child would later describe, it was akin to soft flesh smacking against a hard object. To the child, it sounded like chat, chat, chat. The bedroom door was open and faced a long corridor. The child sat up in bed. Despite his age, his hackles rose as the bizarre chat, chat sound came closer and closer. His heart pounded like a piston as the sound grew louder. Then he saw it. Right outside the bedroom, facing the open door, was a giant starfish-like creature, greenish in color, with a large, gaping maw in its center. The creature climbed along the wall, making the unsettling chat, chat sound with every movement. The creature stopped for a second, then glided into the bedroom and climbed onto the ceiling. Petrified with fear, the child tried to wake his mother by shaking her but uttered no sound. So terrified was he. After what seemed like an eternity, the child's mother finally woke up, annoyed at being disturbed in the middle of the night. When she testily asked her son what he wanted, the terrified toddler simply pointed at the ceiling. When the mother looked up with exasperation, her expression quickly turned to blood-curdling terror. The next morning, when the milkman came to deliver the milk, he found the child sitting mutely on the stairs outside the house. When asked, the boy simply pointed towards the open main door. Inside, the milkman saw a trail of blood leading to the bedroom, where he found the headless corpses of the child's parents. Terrified, the milkman called the neighbors, who then contacted the police. The child was extensively questioned, but no one believed his account of a giant starfish-like monster eating his parents' heads. A local newspaper got hold of the story and dubbed the supposed monster Chatka, inspired by the chat, chat sound it made while moving. The case was never solved. The child's grandparents took him back to their hometown, where he underwent years of therapy, but to no avail. The story doesn't end there. According to my friend, his cousin tried to lead a normal life, but the childhood trauma always haunted him. He eventually got admitted to an engineering college. However, a month after his admission, his headless corpse was found in his hostel room. Subsequent investigations showed no signs of anyone entering the room. This case, too, remains unsolved to this day. I'm not sure where else to post this, but I live on a native reserve called Akwesasne. I don't know if it's well known or not, but a quick Google search will tell you the basics. So let's get into this. I once went out on the boat with my father, his sister, her kids, and their father on the St. Lawrence River. There's an urban legend about the seaweed at the bottom of that river. It's said that bad men would be dragged under by creatures that disguise themselves as the rest of the weeds. On this outing, I jumped into the river alone. I was around 10 years old, and it wasn't uncommon for me to swim alone. When I jumped in, I remember looking down at the bottom of the river. The weeds were about 50 feet below me, pretty far down for a river. As I swam back up to the surface, I felt something grab my leg. I looked down, and it was the weeds, one strand wrapped around my right ankle. I remember the light fading away, and then I blacked out. When I came to, my uncle was giving me CPR, and my father was crying in his sister's arms. He was scared of losing me, as we had lost my older sister when I was 3. That's all I remember of that day. No one talks about trauma here, because it's considered to all be in our heads. Another incident, which didn't happen to me but to one of my uncles, involved him being out in the rain. He saw a literal giant snakehead, and he hit it. This thing was impossibly huge, bigger than a car. Needless to say, I never swim alone anymore, and he doesn't go on the river in the rain. If you're from a big family, you're probably familiar with the fabled family reunion, a time during a set holiday when relatives, often detached from the core family, come together. These reunions typically involve a big feast at a neutral location that can accommodate everyone and has the facilities for cooking. For us, this gathering took place at an old building that used to be a school long ago. It had maybe 5 classrooms and was located in Selma. Every year, without fail, my family would cram into our Dodge van and make the near pilgrimage to this old building for Thanksgiving. However, the story I want to share doesn't take place there. Instead, it happens across the street from my Aunt Faye's home. Once the food was served and the elders said their respective graces, those who didn't have to travel out of state, and some who did, would return to Aunt Faye's home for a more relaxed version of the reunion. One evening, my Uncle Bobby walked in from having a smoke. But something seemed off this time. Bobby, like my father, had served in the military, so seeing him uneasy was strange. Both he and Dad seemed afflicted by something. Being the curious kid I was, I began to pester them until my uncle took me aside and pointed across the street to a house that had been there since he and Dad were kids. We were never allowed near this place. The one time I did as a child, I had trouble sitting for a week afterward. So when he told me that he, Dad, their younger brother, Tom, and my cousin Victor were going over there, I volunteered to join them. Urban legends surrounded this property. Some claimed it was a secret meeting spot for a satanic cult, while others said it was the home of a known witch who had been run out of town. What I saw in that house changed me. It was a classic 1950 style 2-story southern home. The stairs to the second floor were somewhat hidden behind the wall, which struck me as odd. Various images were spray painted on the walls. At least, I hoped it was paint. There were strange small bottles with glass corks, like something from an old Western movie. What scared me most was in the kitchen. There was a pentagram with several flayed carcasses displayed inside the design. They seemed only a day or so old. Coupled with the sound of footsteps outside, this made everyone want to leave. Everyone but my dad. For some reason, Dad wanted to go to the basement, or in this case, the fruit cellar. The look in his eyes that day, focus mixed with fear, was unforgettable. Seeing the man I thought was nearly invincible become literally shaken was a revelation. When we reached the basement, it seemed recently lived in. There were open cans of food, several mats, a single propane heater, and a pile of bones, hopefully chicken bones, neatly stacked next to one of the mats. And then there was a book. I know I shouldn't have taken it, but curiosity got the better of me. Years later, I found out that a cult had been based in Selma around that time. They used to break into farms and steal small livestock for their rituals. But one member went rogue and started abducting people. The woman, known as the Wicked Witch of the East, was never caught, though 2 of her associates were apprehended.